Hey, welcome back to another video, the first one I've been able to get out in 2021. Been meaning to do it quicker, but, self-loathing and other things make it hard sometimes. But we're starting 2021 off negative, which I don't like doing. I do prefer to be positive, but some stuff bugs me, and I gotta talk about it. So we're roughly 23 episodes really into Kamen Rider Saber. 23 aired the day that I record this, and as such I haven't seen it because it's not subbed yet. So I wanted to take a little bit of time to talk about the show, not really in general, more this particular arc that it is doing right now. Because this arc is balls. Now, just full disclaimer right off the bat, I'm going into this complaining about this arc as somebody who generally enjoyed Saber. I liked the first, 15 or so episodes. I realized that a lot of people in general haven't enjoyed it, but I have liked Saber more or less from the start. But this arc is kind of everything about shows and character communication that I really, really hate. Namely, there is no character communication. Just to give a quick rundown, Toma has broken away sort of from the main sort of Logos guys because he believes, thanks to the final words of Kamen Rider Caliber, who was a villain for the first 15 episodes of the show before I guess they got bored with him, because he said so in his last words, and for no real reason, the show even kind of admits this, Toma just believes him. After not long after that, Toma is approached by this woman from the southern base who wants him to help operate over there because the leader of the northern base, Sophia, is currently kidnapped. Toma just kind of goes, "Nah, I think I'll hang at the northern base with my friends." And so immediately she then goes to talk to the other northern base swordsman and says, "Man, something's suspicious about Toma. He might betray you." And they just kind of believe her for no real reason, and it starts this whole thing that's been going on for the last 6 episodes or so, where it's Saber against pretty much everybody else, which would be fine if it weren't for the fact that the entire impetus of this whole thing is complete BS. Okay, Toma hasn't been friends with these people for his entire life or anything, but they have been friends for a few months, and they're going to believe the word of this random woman they've never met before over the guy that they know and trust at this point. So it's already starting off shaky, and it just kind of gets worse, because anytime there is a chance for Toma to attempt to explain what he's doing, the others do not allow him. There were multiple times when he'll try to say something, and whoever he's with at the moment, like Rintaro or Ren or somebody, will just stop him from talking, and they'll fight forever, and so nobody comes out with any answers. This is the worst kind of character conflict, where if you just sat down and talked for 5 minutes, it would be over. There would be no conflict at all. And it's doubly frustrating as an audience member, because the show makes it really clear when Reika, the woman who is from the southern base, the show makes it really clear from the outset when she shows up that she's suspicious and that something isn't totally right about her. So as an audience member, you know that she's either the traitor, or she's the one or she's just intentionally trying to turn them against Toma for any number of reasons. But for the characters to just instantly believe everything that she says, and you keep them sort of in the dark on everything, it's really frustrating, because it just kind of makes everybody seem like an idiot. And it's also just sort of reflected badly on all of the individual swordsmen. Probably the one who gets off the best from this is Rintaro. You can kind of get why he might want to believe another member of the Sword of Logos, because he'd largely been raised by them his entire life. But even then, I feel like he'd be a little bit skeptical of somebody he'd never met before. If Sophia had told him that maybe Toma is a little bit suspicious, yeah, I could probably see him believing her. But Reika is just this rando that he met literally that moment, and he just is like, yeah, okay, sure. Ogami, Kamen Rider Buster, Honestly, he seems to be the most sort of skeptical of Reika's words, but even then, he's not really doing anything to convince the others of anything. He has been open to not immediately branding Toma as a traitor, so he doesn't totally get on board immediately, but he's not actively trying to seek Toma out so he can explain what's going on. He's not trying to justify what Toma might be doing to everybody else. So Ogami just kind of exists and is not making anything better or strictly worse. Daishinji, who should be the logical, reasonable person in this situation, stood in the background for a good bit of it and didn't really do much of anything, until eventually he decided he wanted to find out what Toma and Yuri, who is Kamen Rider Psycho, he wanted to find out what they're doing, not by going and talking to them like a reasonable human being would, but by fighting them. And in the most, BS way possible, this eventually leads to him going, I believe Toma is right, and I'm gonna go help him now. It's like, okay, sure, why not? But the one who gets off the absolute worst with this is Ren. And I know Ren has been kind of a divisive character. I've seen people that really like him, and I've seen people that really hate him. Personally, I liked him. I think his way of being just, this pain-in-the-ass teenager it's entertaining. I think it's funny. They definitely need to do more with his character, but as it stands, I think he's entertaining in that sort of little brat kind of role. But for this arc, he has been insufferable. Directly prior to this, Kento, Kamen Rider Espada, was killed by Kamen Rider Caliber. Ren is understandably upset by this because they didn't really go into it, but it seemed like Kento was sort of like his teacher. Like he had sort of taken Ren on as a protege. So you can understand why he'd be a little upset at the fact that Kento is dead. But he uses this in one particularly awful scene when he goes to get Kento's sword from Toma, where he says that he doesn't deserve to have Toma's sword, and he doesn't deserve to have Kento's sword, and he doesn't deserve to talk about Kento's sacrifice or what Kento, that they had all promised to protect the earth with Kento. And it's like, dude, Kento and Toma were friends before probably you were even born, depending on how old they are. So if anybody has the right to have Kento's sword or talk about what Kento wanted that's not Kento, it's probably Toma. But, Ren is just being a giant pain in the ass, and he's the sort of perfect example of nobody listening. Toma is already fighting a Megid, one of the main villains, and then throughout later in the fight, Dazast, who they sort of ignore. They sort of forget Dazast exists a lot of the time. Ren shows up and decides to try to take Kento's sword from him, and so now he's dealing with that too. So, and during all of that, instead of attempting to listen to what Toma has to say and why he's doing it, he's just lecturing him about how he doesn't deserve to talk about Kento, even though Toma knew Kento longer and was probably closer to him. It's real stupid. But yeah, I realize that this has mostly just been a lot of ranting, but I kind of just need to get it off my chest. I think Saber in the groundwork is a good show. Like I said, I like the beginning. Basically everything before this arc I really enjoyed. And I really hope that when this arc ends, the show can get good again. Because right now I'm reminded very much of how I did not... now that I think about it, it's really reminding me of the path Kamen Rider Ghost took, which is interesting because this show is written by the same guy. I liked Ghost for about the first 15, 16 episodes, and then the show took a nosedive. Saber is largely the same. This arc started right around episode 15, 16, 17, and I liked everything before that, and it's just kind of been in freefall since then. So I'm really worried that this is going to go down the same route as Ghost, which I still hold is the worst Rider show that I've seen so far. And even if it doesn't get quite that bad, at the rate things are going with this particular storyline, it's very much reminding me of Fies, which is another intensely frustrating show because nobody talks to each other in that. But at least in Fies, the writers aren't really necessarily friends. so you can kind of get why they wouldn't want to tell everybody everything. But in Saber, they are all friends, or at least decently trustworthy of each other, or trusting of each other, I suppose. So the fact that nobody is either attempting to explain anything, or when they do attempt to explain anything, everybody else is not listening, it is super frustrating to watch, and it drives me up a wall. So yeah, that's what I've got to say about the current arc for Saber. Like I said, I try to keep decently positive on this channel. I don't like to just complain about stuff, because complaining about stuff all the time is boring. I think it's more fun to go, this thing is good, and I like it. But sometimes I just gotta talk about things, and sometimes those things that I gotta talk about are not good. So that's about gonna do it for this video. I will see you guys next time.